friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alicia and I can't believe it's almost October. I am so excited. It's my birthday month and I also can't believe that we're already here. I feel like I went to sleep in March and woke up today, October. Well, what is going on? But nonetheless, we're here, so I thought I'd come and give you some fall book or October-ish recommendations. It's my first recommendation video, and I'm a little nervous because I don't read a lot of thrillers, I don't read a lot of horror, and I don't read a lot of mystery. So here we are. Nonetheless, I did manage to make a pile from the books that I read. I do want to preface that I don't love all of these books, but just because I don't love them doesn't mean that you won't find them interesting or might not pick them up or might not even love them yourself. We all have different tastes, so I'll do my best to describe them, the reasons why I think they have merit and the reasons why I didn't love them. And if they sound interesting to you, you can just go ahead and pick them up, and if not, then just don't read them. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. The first recommendation that I have for you is not actually a book, it's an author. In my opinion, this author is often overlooked, especially in the horror genre. I think he has perfected the short story. I don't know if you can tell who I'm already suggesting. And he doesn't rely on the suspension of belief. You know, it's not about how far we can push our belief system in terms of horror and thriller and like scare jumps and stuff like that. He really deals more in the psychological and how far he's willing to push human emotion, and he's willing to push what humans are capable of and what's in our nature. And that author is none other than Edgar Allan Poe. I do have this giant collection of tales and poems by him. To be fair, I haven't read through all of them, so I'm just going to recommend my top 4 short stories by him that I think are worth looking into. And at first, I was going to give you a full synopsis of them, but then I realized they're short stories. Some of them are only 2 to 3 pages long, and if I tell you what they're about, or I give you the synopsis, then there's no point in you reading them. So instead, I'm going to try to describe them a little bit and see if it's something that you might be interested in. The first one and my top recommendation for his short story is The Cask of Amontillado, or Amontillado. I never really know how to pronounce that. The Cask of Amontillado is a goofy little tale of a wine connoisseur, and the story ends up with immurement. If that sounds like something that interests you, I highly recommend you pick it up. Now, what I find really valuable about this short story is there's a lot of value in the nuanced conversation that takes place. There's revenge in it. If you like reading about the revenge, I highly recommend it. And I feel like there's not a word wasted in that story. I feel like every single word is intentional there. The next short story of Edgar Allan Poe that I'd like to recommend is The Telltale Heart. Now, this is a very unsettling, I would say, unsettling story. It deals with sanity versus insanity and someone trying to convince you very much so that they do have sanity. And ultimately, it's about a compressed rendering of pathology. So if you like murder, if you like unreliable narrators or extremely reliable narrators who are more than willing to show their true selves and completely tell you the truth, then I would suggest you read the story. The next short story that I'd like to recommend is The Pit and the Pendulum. The Pit and the Pendulum. I don't know why I can't say that. This story this is a slow build story of darkness, torture, and it has rats. Make do what you will with that. The last short story that I want to recommend to you is The Mask of Death, and this is an allegory to death. It's a story about death. The next recommendation I have for you is a classic, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but that is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. The reason that I recommend this to you is just for the simple fact that it's weaved into everywhere. It's so part of our general media nowadays, and that I think you should just go back and read the source material. Not only is Mary Shelley a great writer, but she's also very good at interweaving emotions into the story. And I think it has a great slow build to the narration. Again, I feel like I don't need to explain what Frankenstein is about, other than Frankenstein is not who you really think he is, if that makes sense. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please go read the book, read the source material. That's all I have to say about this book. The next recommendation that I have for you is another short story. This one is by Franz Kafka, and this is Metamorphosis. This follows our main character, Gregor, when he wakes up one morning to discover that he's an insect. Now, this is a translated work, so technically the word insect is not the most correct term in English, but just think about waking up as like a bug sort of thing. And this follows him as he becomes alienated from his family and deals with feelings of disgrace and guilt and inadequacy. This is not the kind of book that is going to keep you up at night because it's so scary and there's monsters under your bed, but it does deal with some heavy topics, and I think it's definitely worth the read. My next recommendation is another classic, so again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, and that is Stephen King's The Shining. What can I say about this? Haunted house. Deals with alcoholism. Deals with insanity. Ghosts. Do I really have to say anything more than that? But if you don't know what this book is about, it follows the Torrances when Jack Torrance takes a job as a caretaker of the Overlook Hotel during the off-season. It deals with him and his family being trapped up there. That's all I really need to know. Fun fact, I live in Oregon, Portland, Oregon, and the Overlook Hotel, even though this is set in Colorado, I believe, the Overlook Hotel is actually one of our ski resorts that we have here. No, I have not visited it. If not, I would include footage. If I do end up going later this season when my partner and I go snowboarding, I'll definitely go ahead and include a clip of the Overlook Hotel. My next two recommendations are books that don't necessarily fit in with the horror and thriller vibe, but I still feel like they're good picks for fall. The first one is going to be The Dreamers by Karen Thompson Walker. I do want to preface this by saying that I did not enjoy this book. When I originally read it, I gave it a 2 out of 5, and I think it's a book that I want to revisit because I read it when COVID first hit, and I was trying to deal with my emotions of not being able to go outside and feeling trapped, and I think I wasn't in the right headspace to read this book at the time, so I definitely want to give it a second shot. But this follows a small college town where a sleeping sickness is taking place. It follows multiple points of view and alternating timelines. So if that sounds interesting to you, I personally didn't vibe with the writing style. It's just I couldn't immerse myself into the story because I didn't vibe with the writing. My next recommendation is Station 11 by St. John Mendel. This book takes place when a virus wipes out 99.9% of the population, and it follows a nomadic group of performers who go around into smaller settlements performing Shakespeare. It's told in alternating timelines from multiple points of views. So if that's your thing, I think you'll really enjoy it. In the alternating timeline, we follow Jivon, who is a Hollywood actor, and we follow his life leading up to the pandemic. This is a very subtle book that is very good at building measurable threat. If I had to describe this book, the best way that I can describe this book is by saying it's a beautiful canvas. All the people and their stories are the different colors, and they all come together into this beautiful picture, if that makes sense. Again, it's very subtle, but if you like slow burning, weaving narratives, then I think you'll really enjoy this. The next fall recommendation that I have for you is The Devil in the White City by Erik Larson. I also have to preface this book by saying that it wasn't my favorite. I think, again, it was because of the time. I read this around the same time I read The Dreamers. Now that I think about it, most of the books that I read around the beginning of COVID, I ended up giving horrible reviews to. So it might be because of that. I think I have to give this book another chance. But this is a true crime-ish kind of book. We, again, told on 2 alternating timelines, and we follow, the first timeline Daniel Hudson Burnham during the 1893 Chicago World Fair. As he's building it, it's during the Gilded Age. There's a lot of beauty and construction and history going on. If you love history, you will absolutely love this book. I think my problem back then with it was just too heavy on the description. Erik Larson has a beautiful writing style. I cannot deny that, but he just described everything. I couldn't do without the description. It was like reading The Grapes of Wrath again, and my mind couldn't handle that, you know? And then the second alternating timeline follows Henry H. Holmes as he's killing women, and then later on a detective trying to, catch him. So if you're into murder, mystery, and history, then I think you'll really enjoy it. Again, I think Erik Larson is an excellent writer. I just didn't have the headspace for that during the time I read it. The next book that I have for you is The Sherlockian by Graham Moore. This is a very fun, fast mystery read. So I was about to say, if you're a fan of Sherlock Holmes, you'll probably enjoy this book, but I've never read any Sherlock Holmes book, so I can't really say that. But this is a fictional novel, and we follow Arthur Conan Doyle. He's trying to solve a murder mystery after he kills him off in his book. And then we also have an alternating timeline in which a Sherlockian is, this really invested Sherlockian is trying to uncover the last diary of Arthur Conan Doyle. It's really, really, really fast-paced. It got me out of a reading slump, actually. I read this right after I read The Devil in the White City, and I absolutely loved it. It was a fun read, and I really enjoyed it. The next book that I'm going to recommend for you is more of a historical fiction book, and that is A Pale View of Hills by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is another slow build book that doesn't ever gain traction. I know that sounds like a horrible description, but I absolutely love this book. It's eerie and haunting in a different way than horrors and thrillers are, because it's about memories and how unreliable that can be, and about the lies that we tell ourselves. It's more hard-hitting, and I really enjoyed it. But in this book, we follow a woman who is recounting her summer in Nagasaki. This woman's daughter just recently committed suicide, and her youngest daughter comes to visit her, and they start talking about her summer in Nagasaki when she met a very strange friend. That's as much as I really want to tell you about this book, because it's super short. It's less than 200 pages, and Kazuo Ishiguro has a beautiful writing style. So if you haven't heard about this book, I recommend it. Especially also if you like history. It deals a lot with the grief and the aftermath of the bombing of Nagasaki. I'm not going to spend a lot more time on this book either, because I've talked about it in the past, but the next book that I recommend is Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. This book is dark. Fucked up shit happens in this book. There's a lot of violence. There's a lot of body horror. This follows the story of 2 estranged sisters. When they were younger, their youngest sister, Julia, went missing, and then 20 years into the future, they reconnect when there's another missing girl that is making headlines, and they soon start to connect the dots and start to find out what happened to their sister Julia years ago. Again, this book deals with a lot of heavy stuff. It deals with grief. It has a lot of violence, so a lot of trigger warnings are needed going into this, but I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I thought it was fantastic, but it is also very dark. It's not for the faint of heart. The next two books that I have for you are both by the same author. He is slowly becoming one of my favorite authors of all time, and that is Coraline, and The Ocean at the End of the Lane. What these two have in common is that they're beautifully written. Every single time you read them, there's something new that you learn from them, and there's this very haunting, airy atmosphere that Neil Gaiman creates that just brings you back to your childhood fears and really immerses you into the world and like really digs deep and helps you feel emotion. Like, I think he's very good at doing that. And honestly, I read Coraline at night. It was like 1 or 2 in the morning. I was home by myself and I was genuinely creeped out, and I was a little bit panicked, to be honest. But yeah, those are my recommendations for you. Let me know if you've read any of this so far, or if you disagree with me that they're not full books. Totally understand. Thank you so much for watching if you made it this far, and if you have, tell me what are some of your favorite books to read in the fall. I would love to pick them up. Thank you so much. I'm not sure yet, but I might not be posting any more videos until after October 12th, because that's when my birthday is. I wanted to take a little break, enjoy life. I might go see my mom. I might blog it. If I do go see my mom, we'll see. I'm not really sure, but nonetheless, thank you so much for all of your support so far, and I'll see you next time.